It's your open source advocate, and I'm back with another video, and today I'm going to talk about Crater invoicing. Now, I've had this one requested in the past. I did one on Solid Invoice a while back, and a lot of you liked it. Now, some of you said, hey, could you show me how to do Crater? Could you show me how to do Invoice Ninja? A few of those other things. I've tried Invoice Ninja multiple times, and I just never can get it to come up and run the way that I feel like it should. So I'll continue to work with that one, but I got Crater running, and it took a little bit of work as well. So I'll show you not only how to get it running, but the things that I ran into, and hopefully what will help you get past those things as well. Once it gets running, it's a really nice invoicing system. So we'll definitely take a look at it and see what you think, and we'll get into it right after this.
I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers and all of my patrons over at Patreon. Seriously, you guys make this so worth it for me to do these videos every week. I really, truly enjoy it, and I just can't say thank you enough. If you're enjoying these videos, subscribe. Let YouTube know that I'm doing a good job by subscribing to the channel. Plus, you'll get notified when I have new videos coming out. And finally, if you're enjoying what I'm doing, give it a like. Just click on that thumbs up, and that way YouTube knows that you like it, and they'll pass it along to other people that might enjoy my content as well. I really appreciate it. Thank you again. Let's get started.
So as always, because it's open source software, that means that you can get it for free. That means that you don't get charged, you don't have to pay anything, and that's great. But the freedom in open source really means that you're free to change and do what you want with the software and redistribute it if you want to, which is really what I think is the greatest part of open source. It means that you can contribute back. It means that you can do so many great things as part of the community of an open source project. Now, they have pages on their open source side, and you can see those pages right up here where it says open source. But I also have some tabs open that I want you guys to look at. So we just check out the pricing models, because they do run this as a business, but you can definitely get the open source version at no cost. And you can see all of the things that you get. So you get unlimited invoices, unlimited companies. You can also add modules. You have basic reporting. You have white labeling, and you have community support. Now again, you can see here that you can just download that. Now when you download it, it downloads a zip file or a tar.gz file, and really you're expected to set it up in a very, what I would call, traditional way. You're not going to be using a container, but today we're going to use Docker to set this up in a container because they have those instructions as well. But when you start looking at the pricing, they do have some other options. So if you want an on-premise enterprise option, you have some extra things that get added on. So you get single sign-on, you get instant account receivables, you get business-to-business, buy now, pay later, user access logs, custom integrations, just so many things. And then you just contact them. They can talk to you about the pricing that you might need for your business. And then if you want to do it in the cloud, instead of setting up your own instance, if you're going to pay them anyways, I mean, and you should think about that. If you're an IT person, you may not want to mess with another server. If you're a person that runs a small business, maybe you don't want to mess with a server. You just want something that's hosted and really kind of kept up to date for you. Then you get all those features plus some by being in the cloud. So if you look at the list for in the cloud, you can really see what else you get, and then again, contact them. And if you want to see a comparison side by side, you can see compare the features here for open source, on-premise, and so on. And it really shows you kind of what you get, what you won't get, and really gives you a good breakdown of what they've got. So a really great option to go to that page there. Then we start talking about the download. I did just talk about this from the open source side. If you do the download, they ask you for an email, but you don't have to do that. You can just click on a link that says go to the direct download page. When you do that, it does come down as a tar or gz file, and then you'll be expected to extract that file and put things in the right places and kind of follow the documentation. Today, we're really going to go and look at how do we do this through Docker. So I'm going to go over here to their documentation, and I'll have these links in the show notes in the description for you guys so you can find it pretty easily. But if you look here, you've got installation, you've got the manual installation process, the Docker installation process, and then if you want to use DigitalOcean, which I have an affiliate account with DigitalOcean, so if you go sign up for DigitalOcean using my account that's in the description, you'll see that link in the description down a little ways if you look. You'll get a credit for, I think, $50 of credit for 30 or 60 days. I can't remember exactly, but it'll tell you when you do the sign up that you can use. So you can go use their stuff, $50 worth of their stuff. And that's a lot of servers if you're thinking like a $5, $10 server. And for 60 days before you have to pay them anything. And then if you say, you know what, I just want to pay you for the $5 server that I've got, that's what they're going to charge you every month is $5. It's really great. I've enjoyed DigitalOcean so much. I use it for a lot of the things that I do, and it's just really a great service. So if you do get over there and use them, and you use my affiliate link, the nice thing is if you stick with them, I also get a credit, which helps pay for the servers that I use for learning about how to do all these videos that I'm doing for you guys. So that does help me out in the long run as well, and I do appreciate it. But we're going to do straight up Docker installation today. So if you just click on it, it jumps you down on the page to the Docker installation part. Now the first thing to talk about is install Docker, so I'll talk about that. You've got the install Docker Compose. Again, I'll talk about that one. And then clone their repository. So they've got some really great instructions, but I've kind of written up my own instructions based on their instructions and added a few things in that will help you. And I'll have that over on my show notes as well. So that's where I'm going to jump over to today. So first we've got installing Docker, Docker Compose, and then I also suggest that you install Nginx Proxy Manager. If you don't already have a proxy service that you prefer, I like Nginx Proxy Manager. It's got a nice graphical user interface through a web UI, which makes it really easy to use and set things up. But I have a script that I've created. Now this is hosted over at GitLab. A lot of people are finding the old script over at GitHub and they're leaving me comments and they're leaving me issues, and I'm trying to point everybody over to GitLab. So please look at the description, at the URL here in the description when I tell you what to do. The first things you're going to want, just definitely git, curl, and wget if you're going to use my script. And if you're using Debian Ubuntu, it should be apt. If you're using Fedora, Red Hat, probably CentOS, you can use DNF. If you're using Arch, you can use pacman. So definitely kind of notice which one you're using and go install those tools if you don't already have them installed. Now with this script, you're just going to do a wget, and it's going to pull down the script from GitLab, right from my system. And then once it downloads, you basically just need to change the permissions on the script. So you're just going to change permissions to make it executable. And you just run the script. And all it's going to do is say, hey, it looks like you want to install Docker. And you're going to say yes. Now, it may prompt you for your super user password. You should not be logged in as root. Definitely run this as a non-root user who has super user permissions. It'll ask you for that password, and you just tell it, yes, I want to install Docker. Yes, I want to install Docker Compose. Yes, I want to install Nginx Proxy Manager. And it will go and do those installations for you. Now, Nginx Proxy Manager, just depending on the system, it may not come up the first time, but it'll put everything in place there that it needs. I recommend that you go in and change the password and the default username in that Docker Compose file anyways. But yeah, this script will do it for you, and I've got it here in the description, so that's really easy. You don't have to do anything special except get the script and run it, and it's going to go. The next part we're going to get into is installing Crater, and I like to use a really simple folder structure basically to do this. So I'm bringing up my terminal. I'm going to show you guys kind of what I have. So if I do an ls, you'll see that I've got that script that I ran to basically install everything. And if I run it, we can just look at it here. It's not going to hurt anything. Install docker.sh. This is what it looks like. So I first try to tell you, here's what it looks like you're on. It looks like you're on Ubuntu 2204 and it's jammy. So over here, I give you a list of numbers, and you just pick the number for the distribution you're on. So in this case, 2204 is number 4, so I would type number 4. And then it's going to say, okay, put in your super user password. Now I'm going to check and try to see if you already have Docker and Docker Compose installed. And in this case, it's going to tell me it looks like you've already got those installed, so I don't need to do that. So I skip those questions. If you didn't have it installed, it would first ask you, do you want to install Docker CE? And you would hit Y, just like this one. And then it would say, do you want to install Docker Compose? And you would hit Y, and then Nginx Proxy Manager and hit Y. And for each thing you want it to try and install, just hit Y and then press enter. And then it's going to go through the installation process, and it should just kind of run through. And when it's finished, you'll be back at the prompt, and everything should be up and running. So it's very simple to run. I'm just going to Control-C out of it because I already have it on this system. But I do already have those files here, so you can say I even use my own script to do these things. It does create a Docker script install log whenever it runs. So if you have issues, if you want to jump over to discuss.opensourceisawesome.com, DM me on Mickintx, Mick, M-I-C-K-I-N-T-X on there. Just send me a direct message and tell me, hey, I've got an install log where it didn't work right. Would you mind looking at it? That gives me information to help me make the script better over time, and I'll do my best to keep improving that script because I want it to be useful for you guys. But then you see I've got this Docker folder. So I like to create this Docker folder, and then whatever I'm going to run inside of it, and I'll show you what I've got today. You see I've got Crater already inside of it. I've got Docker Compose for N8N. I've got Lemmy. I've got so many different things here that basically I'm going to try to run some of these things. I'll do some videos if I haven't already done them. So yeah, this is kind of how I work. So I'm going to go back into that previous folder, and the way to do this, you can do this really easily. If you don't have the Docker folder set up yet and you're doing it for this video, you would do mkdir-p docker and then /crater. What this is going to do, if you already have the Docker folder, it'll just ignore that and it'll just create the Crater folder inside of it. If you don't already have the Docker folder, it'll create both of these folders in the structure that you told it. So it's a simple one-line command to create the folder structure you want. Then you just cd into docker/crater, just like that. Now you see I've already got another creator folder inside of here, but that's okay. I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do next. So once you've created this folder structure, you're just going to go and you're going to use this command. We'll go back to my show notes. So we're just going to scroll right here. It's going to be git clone, and it's going to clone the creator repository. So I'm just going to copy that command, and when you go back to your terminal, you just do Control, Shift, and V like Victor to paste that command in there. So we've got this git clone command that we're just going to use right out of the system. So we're just going to clone this down. Clones down everything that we need, and now if we do an ls, we'll see that we have this creator folder. So we're going to just cd into that one, and you'll see we've got this structure now that says docker creator. That's what we want. And if we do an ls, we're going to see quite a few files here. Now we've got a docker compose.yaml file already. We'll have to make some modifications to this one. And then we've got this docker compose folder. So don't get these confused. There are two things here named docker compose, but one's a folder and one's a file. Now we're going to do ls-a, which is going to show us some hidden files. That's all these files that have a dot in front of them, a period. And you'll see we've got this one called env example. So we're going to do a copy of .env.example, and we're going to put a space, and then we're going to create a new file called .env. So we're copying from env example to .env, and now if we do ls-a, let's clear this out. You'll see we've got that new .env file. That's the one that we want to edit. So we're going to do nano.env, and you'll see there's quite a bit of stuff in here that they've already kind of preset. So the things you want to change are going to be these things here, which is the API URL. You want to set this up to be whatever your URL is going to be. So if you're going to run this thing as an HTTPS system, you want to put an S there for HTTPS. And then you might want to put this as creator. In my case, I'm going to use routemehome.org because that's, so routemehome.org is a domain name that I own. I am going to create the subdomain of creator.routemehome.org, and I'm going to point that at my public IP address. As we go down, you're going to want to use database name as creator. That's fine, but here the DB name, DB username, I'm going to change that to Brian, not Brain. And then I'm going to change this to a strong password that's hard. Well, we don't want that. Hard to guess. In this next section, there's really nothing that we need to change. And for the Redis host, again, really nothing you need to change. And then the mail driver, this is SMTP. That's fine. That's what we want. Now, you want to put in your SMTP information for Creator. So I'm going to put in box.fixitdelrio.com. That's my mail host. And I'm going to put in the mail port 587 because I use start TLS. I'm going to put in my username at fixitdel. Make sure I'm putting it right. And then my password I'll put in just a minute, but you want to use your actual email password. And then your TLS for the encryption. Now, if you're using SSL, you'd want to put SSL, change the port number. If you're not using any encryption, change the port number, put none for encryption. It's kind of up to you and what your system has. But then once you've filled all that in, move on down. Don't forget to put in the password for your mail. But here where it has the stateful domains, I'm just going to be running this all off of one system. So I'm just going to use the same domain for both of these. And I can just put routemehome.org just like that. Everything else I'm going to leave the same. Once I've got all that changed, I'm going to save it with Control-O and then Enter and then Control-X. And now we've got our .env file set. The next thing we need to do is we need to edit our docker compose.yaml file. Make sure you're editing the docker compose.yml. Don't try to edit the docker compose because that's just a folder. When we get in here, now I don't know if this is really using the env file because a lot of these environment variables are not being set with the env file from what I can tell, but I went ahead and changed everything there. I just want to make sure I set things to match inside of this folder. So we're going to do MySQL user is not creator anymore. I changed that to Brian. The MySQL password I changed to a long, strong password that's more secure. Something like that. So, of course, change that to an actual password with numbers, letters, uppercase, lowercase, make it really long. It's not something you have to remember. You can always refer back to this file in order to get it. The database is Crater is fine, but the root password, you want to make this a long, strong root password that's really super strong and secure. Something like that. Super long, super difficult for anybody to ever guess, so they can't access your stuff, okay? On the ports, I just left these like this because it seems like it's probably going to be fine. 33006 is just what you need to remember if you want to access the MySQL database from outside of the Docker container network. But other than that, just leave it as it is, and then the networks are Crater, that's fine. Leave it all alone. And then finally, down here on the Nginx section, the only thing I changed is this port. I don't want to run this on port 80. I'll use port 8019 because I know on my host, that's the left side here, I don't have anything that uses this port number. The right side, do not change this. Your containers are expecting certain port numbers, so don't change the right side. That's the container port. The left side is your host machine's ports, and if those are already in use, you definitely want to change that. If 80 is not in use, you probably still want to change it because if you're going to run Nginx Proxy Manager, that one should have port 80. So we'll go on down, and we'll look here at the cron. There's really nothing to change for cron that I'm aware of, so I didn't. And really everything else here is set. So once we've made those few little changes to the Docker Compose file, we'll just do Control-O, Enter, and Control-X to exit that one. Once we've got that set, we're pretty much ready to start this thing. So in order to start it up, you're just going to do Docker-Compose up-D. Now, I like to also usually give it an extra one, which is && Docker-Compose logs-F, because that shows me all the logs as it starts up. But in this case, so if you come back and look at the Docker-Compose.yaml file, it's going to build this Docker container for us. It's not going to pull one down from a pre-made image. So you're going to get a lot of output when you run this anyways. So if we just do Control-X, we can clear this out. We'll just do Docker-Compose up-D, just like this. And there's a space between up and -D, but this tells it to run as a daemon, so it runs in the background after it finishes. When we're ready, we're going to run this command. We're just going to hit enter, and it's going to start doing a whole bunch of stuff, and it's going to build this container. It's going to do all kinds of things. So I'm going to make a couple of quick changes to those files, and we'll be ready to run it. All right, we're going to run this command. We should be ready to go. Now, this is going to pull some things down, but it's also going to create that container for us the first time. So it's going to take a little bit of time. So be patient because this will probably take 10 or 15 minutes. And just depending on your internet speed, could take even longer than that and your processing power. All right, once we're done, we can figure out if we've got a working system by doing Docker-Compose PS. And you should see something pretty similar to this, and it tells us that everything is up and running and we're seeing things on the ports that we expect, so that's a good start. Now we've got to run a command after this that is a script that they include with the git download whenever you do that. So to do that, you're going to run basically /docker-compose. Now this is the folder that we're talking about, setup.sh. Just going to hit enter. That's going to try to run. It's going to pull down some stuff again from the internet. And what you'll likely have happen is you'll see this error right here, that it talks about having a pest plugin and it contains Composer plugin, which is blocked by your allow plugins config. Now this is what threw me for quite a while, but I did find some information online that basically helped me fix it, and it's really not a hard fix once you know what to do. So we're going to do Docker-Compose down. Now this is just going to bring down the current running containers. Luckily you don't have to rebuild these containers. It just has to do that build that first time, and after that the containers will just come back up until you get a new version that you want to do. But what we're going to do is we're going to basically adjust what's in this composer.hjson file. So if you do an ls, you can see that right here, this composer.json file. So I'm going to clear this out. We'll do nano composer.json, and in here we're going to scroll way down to the bottom of this file, and there's this config section right here. We're just going to go up to the end of this last line in the config section that says sort packages true. We're going to add a comma, we're going to hit enter, we're going to add 4 spaces and then quote allow dash plugins and then colon true. We're going to save, Control O to save, and then Control X to exit. And now we're just going to do docker compose up-d one more time. It'll bring up those containers. And then we're going to do / docker compose setup.sh again. It's going to run through this again. It's going to pull that stuff down again, so be patient while it pulls those things down. It's a little bit faster the second time, as you can see. We've gotten further this time, so that's a good sign. It's going to give you this warning. Don't worry about that. Just continue forward. And then you want to type in YES for this prompt that you get about application in production. And that's it. It's going to tell you that it was successful. We can now open up our browser. And we're going to go to a new tab. We'll go to our IP address of our host. And we're going to go to 8019 is the port that we set. There it is. Crater is set up and running. Now we don't want to go through this first run wizard unless you intend to only use this on your local network. If you're going to set up an actual domain name instead of this IP, stick with me and we'll go through that. And once we've got that set up, you'll be ready to run through the first run wizard. So the next thing you want to do, if you want to reach this from outside your network, is you want to set up a proxy. In my case, I use Nginx Reverse Proxy Manager or Nginx Proxy Manager. If you use one, that's great. If you prefer something else, that's terrific. I cover this one just because it's the one that I know. So I'm going to enlarge this for the folks on their devices at home. And we're just going to create a new proxy. And I called this Crater, crater.routemehome.org. I'm going to hit tab to make sure it turns into that chip. If you don't do that and you click out of there, that'll just go away. Now we're going to put in the IP address of my host. In this case, you'd put in your host, of course. And we're going to put in the port 8019. Now, I do this because I'm running Nginx Proxy Manager on a different host from the one I'm running on with Crater. If you're running them on the same host, you can either use localhost, you can use your Docker 0 IP address, or you can use the actual name of the Nginx container. But you need to have those on the same Docker network that is not the default network in order for that to work. So the other option would be localhost or your Docker 0 IP address. It's kind of up to you how you run that. But in my case, I'm running them on different hosts, so this is how I set it up. Next thing I say is block common exploits and WebSocket support. I'm just going to save this. I've got to make it a little smaller so I can get to the save button here. And we'll give that a run. And there we go. We get our startup wizard. Now, this is not running SSL yet. This is just running HTTP. So we've got one more step. So we're just going to close this one more time. We're going to go back over here. We're going to click on the three dots. We're going to click on Edit. And we'll double check and make sure we're on the right one. We're going to click on the SSL tab. We're going to click on Request a new SSL certificate, Force SSL, and HTTP2 support. And then down here, I agree to the Let's Encrypt Terms of Service and make sure your email is filled in. Click on Save. Now what we want to happen is for this little pop-up to just go away with no errors. Once in a while I get a little red bar but there's no error message in it and it doesn't go away. I just click Save again and then it usually works. But occasionally, it's not very often that happens. Now I can just click on this link again and we should get there with HTTPS. And we did. There we go. Now we can run through this first run wizard, and I'm going to zoom this up a little bit again for the folks on the phone. So the first thing I want to do is check the system requirements. It goes through. It should give you a little green dot for everything. Click on Continue. It's going to check your storage framework, everything like that. Everything should work. This is all inside of a Docker container, so there's no reason that these should fail. So everything should be functioning, but it's good to go through the steps anyways. It's going to pull, now this is why I said you wanted to set up your reverse proxy first, because it pulls this from what the page is on now. It looks for database port 3306, even though we set 33006 for the host side, we want to leave it at 3306. The database username, database name is Crater. The username is Brian, and then the password I'll go grab and we'll copy it. And the way you can do that is just go open it up in your Docker Compose file and copy it. So you can just do cat docker compose.yml, and then once you hit enter, you'll have that Docker Compose. Just look for that line and copy it right out of there. It's up to you how you do that. I'll copy it and then we'll be right back. All right, I've copied that out. I'm just going to paste it into here. And then finally, the database host is not localhost. We want to use the actual database name. So again, here in your terminal, you can do docker compose ps. And right here is the database name. It's crater_db_1. In this case, it'll probably be the same for you, but just in case it's not, it's a good thing to look. So we'll just type in crater_db_1, and we're going to hit save and continue. Just need to give that a second. Let it run, and it should move to the next step without any issue. It's going to do a domain verification. It wants to say crater.routemehome.org. I'm going to hit verify now, but now your mail configuration. We did this in the environment variable file, but it's okay to do it again. So if you need SMTP, definitely click that, but check these other options. Make sure you're getting the right one. But in my case, I need SMTP. So I would go through and fill all this out. Now it's going to try to check and see if this functions correctly. It's kind of up to you how you set this up. There's SendMail, there's SES, there's Mailgun. So they have quite a few options here, just depending on what you want to use. You can't pass this unless you set up the email. So you do need to have some kind of email sending capabilities that you're ready to set up. It's really up to you how you do it. So for me, it's SMTP. And again, for my host, it's box.fixitdelrio.com. Once you've set all that up, just click on save. And then you're going to set up your profile very quickly. And then set up a password for your user. And you can save. Now, if you want to add a profile picture, you're welcome to do that. I don't have one ready, so nothing for me to add there. And now your company information. So if you have logos, if you have anything like that, you'll want to get that ready so you can upload it as well. But put in your company name. United States is my country, so it already picked that for me. The state is Texas in my case. I don't know why I tried to fill in the localhost thing. And then save that and continue. And then you want to set this correctly the first time out. So you cannot change the dollar or the currency value that you set after you've done it the first time. So in my case, it detects US dollar. That's great. The date format, depending on where you're from, may be different. So set that to your liking. And then your time zone is very important. So it sets UTC automatically, but I don't want UTC. I want to go down to -6. And I want to go to Chicago. There we go. So that's me, Central Time. And then January through December is fine for the calendar. I'm going to hit save, and it's going to warn you like, hey, you cannot change this after you do it. So just make sure you pay attention and set it correctly for your currency. But then click OK. And bam, you are into Crater. You're set up. You're ready. Now there's other settings that you can go look at, but you went through a lot of the setup kind of to start with here. So that's really a good thing. If you've got everything ready out of the gate, you want to have that good to go. Once you've got that, you've got this nice dashboard, but you can go in and you can add customers. So if you don't have a customer set up, you can add a new customer, which it's important. You need to have your customers set up. You need to have everything ready, get them set up and ready to go. Then you can go in and you can create an invoice, for instance. And again, you want to have customers set up because invoices use that customer list to pull from. You can set up products that have pre-arranged amounts, but you can also just add products on the fly to your invoices, quotes, estimates, things like that. But really, this is a cool system. I think once you click around, you'll find out that it's very easy to use. It's very user-friendly, very simple, very straightforward. So here we go. I've got a little bit of data. I've sent out an invoice already. I've got it ready so you can see what the invoice is. You can see that it's got one customer and that I've got two different invoices that I've sent. I've got one that's been paid and one that's pending. So that shows me really, it's really a nice little dashboard that you get for this. I think it's really a tremendous tool. It's very easy to use. Like I said, I think this has got kind of a dark reader setup kind of thing going. There we go. This is actually the actual colors. I apologize for the brightness of it, but I did want you to see what the actual colors look like. So again, if you install this little plugin on Firefox or Chrome, Dark Reader, it's really great. It makes things kind of a dark mode automatically, which is nice and really helps save your eyes a lot of times. That's really it for Crater Invoice. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it so they can come along on the journey with us, and I'll talk to you next time.